Captain Lee Daeho stared at the warning lights flashing red across his ship's control panel. The research vessel Taeguk shook violently as sparks flew from damaged circuits. His coffee mug had fallen to the floor an hour ago, and he missed the simple pleasure of a hot drink while dealing with this crisis. "Status report," Lee Daeho called out, gripping his captain's chair as another tremor ran through the ship. Dr. Kim Sora looked up from her science station, her face pale but determined. "The hyperdrive is completely damaged, Captain. We dropped out of hyperspace near an unknown system. I'm reading strange energy patterns everywhere." Engineer Park Jin-woo wiped sweat from his forehead as he worked frantically at his engineering console. "Sir, the main drive core is overloading. I need to vent the plasma conduits or we'll have a complete meltdown in 20 minutes. Lee Daeho nodded grimly. The Taeguk was one of Earth's newest deep space research ships, designed for long-range exploration missions. They had been studying unusual energy readings near Proxima Centauri when their hyperdrive malfunctioned. Now they were stranded in unknown space with failing systems. "Do what you need to do, Park Jin-woo," the captain said. "Dr. Kim Sora, can you tell me where we are?" Kim Sora's fingers danced over her control panel as she analyzed the sensor data. "This is very strange, Captain. The space around us doesn't match any known star charts. The energy readings are off the scale. It's like we're in some kind of dimensional pocket." Park Jin-woo's voice crackled over the intercom from the engine room. "Captain, I have to try something risky. I'm going to reverse the polarity on the quantum flux generators. It might tear a hole in space, but it's our only chance to prevent the ship from exploding." "Do it," Lee Daeho ordered without hesitation. The engineer worked quickly, his hands moving over complex controls with practiced skill. Park Jin-woo had grown up fixing old spacecraft in the orbital shipyards above Earth. He understood machines better than most people understood other humans. As he reversed the polarity, the ship's hull groaned under enormous stress. Suddenly, reality seemed to tear apart around them. A brilliant white light filled the view screen as space itself split open like fabric being ripped in half. The Taeguk was sucked through the opening before anyone could react. Lee Daeho felt his stomach drop as the ship tumbled through what looked like a tunnel of swirling colors and impossible geometry. Kim Sora gripped her station tightly, her scientific mind trying to process what she was seeing. This was beyond any known physics. "Emergency landing protocols," the captain shouted as they burst out of the tunnel into normal space. Below them was a beautiful blue-green world with white clouds and vast oceans. It looked remarkably similar to Earth. Park Jin-woo's voice came through the speakers, strained but calm. "Engines are dead, Captain. We're going down whether we want to or not. I'm trying to angle our descent toward that large continent." The Taeguk fell through the alien world's atmosphere like a burning meteor. Lee Daeho watched the ground rush up toward them as Park Jin-woo used the ship's maneuvering thrusters to control their crash landing. They hit the surface hard, plowing through what looked like a forest of crystal trees before finally coming to rest in a clearing. For several minutes, nobody moved. The ship's emergency lighting cast eerie red shadows throughout the bridge. Lee Daeho slowly pulled himself upright and checked on his crew. "Everyone alive?" he asked. Kim Sora nodded, blood trickling from a small cut on her forehead. "I'm okay, Captain. My equipment is mostly intact, too." Park Jin-woo's voice came over the intercom, sounding tired but relieved. "Still breathing down here, sir. The hull held together better than I expected. We'll need major repairs, but the ship isn't completely destroyed." Lee Daeho activated the external cameras and gasped at what he saw. The crystal trees they had crashed through were not just similar to crystals. They actually were crystals, growing from the ground like bizarre geometric plants. The sky above was a pale lavender color with two small suns hanging in the distance. "Captain," Kim Sora said, her voice filled with excitement despite their situation. "I'm detecting artificial structures about 2 kilometers from here. And there are life signs, lots of them." Before Lee Daeho could respond, the ship's sensors detected movement in the sky above. Something large was approaching their position. The captain enhanced the external cameras and saw massive ships descending from the clouds. They were unlike anything in human design, beautiful crystalline vessels that seemed to grow rather than be built. "Are they hostile?" Lee Daeho asked. Kim Sora studied her readings carefully. "I don't detect any weapons charging, but these ships are huge. Each one is at least 3 times the size of our largest battleships. And Captain, I'm reading dozens of them surrounding our position." The crystal ships landed in a wide circle around the crashed Taeguk. They moved with an eerie silence, settling onto the ground like delicate flowers despite their enormous size. Ramps extended from their hulls and figures began to emerge. "My God," Kim Sora whispered as she watched the aliens through the external cameras. The beings were tall and graceful, standing nearly 8 feet in height. Their skin was translucent blue and they seemed to glow with an inner light. They moved like dancers, each step perfectly balanced and flowing. Instead of speaking, they communicated through musical tones that rose and fell in complex harmonies. "They're beautiful," Kim Sora said softly. Lee Dae-ho nodded, but his military training kept him focused on potential threats. "Park Jin-woo, how are our defensive systems?" "Emergency power only, Captain," came the reply. "We couldn't fight off a determined attack from a child with a slingshot right now." The aliens had formed a wide circle around the human ship, but kept their distance. Their musical communications grew more complex as more of them arrived. Kim Sora listened carefully, her scientific mind trying to find patterns in their sounds. "I think they're afraid of us," she said with surprise. "Afraid?" Lee Dae-ho looked at the massive alien ship surrounding them. "Why would they be afraid of us?" Kim Sora pulled out her tablet and began running scans of the aliens and their technology. The device was standard Earth equipment, designed for field research on unknown worlds. As she worked, she noticed something odd about the readings. "Captain, this is very strange. Their ships are incredibly large, but the power output is much lower than I would expect. And their materials?" She paused, studying the data more carefully. "Their ships are made from grown crystals, but the molecular structure is quite primitive. Beautiful, but not very efficient." Lee Dae-ho watched as more aliens gathered around their ship. They seemed to be having some kind of debate, their musical voices rising and falling in what might have been argument or discussion. "Dr. Kim Sora, can you analyze their atmosphere? Are we going to need environmental suits?" Kim Sora's tablet quickly processed the atmospheric data. "The air is breathable, Captain. Actually, it's cleaner than Earth's atmosphere. Lower pollution levels, perfect oxygen content. These people have taken good care of their world." Park Jin-woo's voice crackled over the intercom again. "Captain, I'm detecting some kind of energy field surrounding us. It's not hostile, but it's definitely artificial. I think they've trapped us in some kind of containment field." Lee Dae-ho considered their options. They were stranded on an alien world surrounded by beings with advanced technology. Their ship was damaged and couldn't fight or flee. But the aliens hadn't attacked them, and they seemed more curious than hostile. "I think we need to make contact," the captain decided. "Dr. Kim Sora, prepare a first contact protocol. Park Jin-woo, can you get our universal translator working?" "Already on it, Captain," Park Jin-woo replied. The translator is one of the few systems still working perfectly. Kim Sora gathered her equipment and prepared for humanity's first contact with an alien civilization. She had dreamed of this moment since childhood, but she had never imagined it would happen after a crash landing on a strange world. As the three humans prepared to step outside their damaged ship and meet the aliens, none of them realized that they had just accidentally broken through a barrier that the Galactic Empire had spent thousands of years trying to breach. The simple emergency repair that Park Jin-woo had performed had torn open a dimensional wall that was considered impossible to cross. The beautiful blue aliens waiting outside were about to meet a species that would challenge everything they thought they knew about technology, progress, and the nature of civilization itself. Lee Dae-ho stepped out of the Taeguk's airlock, followed closely by Kim Sora and Park Jin-woo. The alien world's air was clean and sweet, with a faint scent of something like cinnamon. The crystal trees around them chimed softly in the gentle breeze, creating a natural music that was both beautiful and strange. The blue aliens stood in their wide circle, still communicating through their musical tones. Up close, Lee Dae-ho could see that they wore flowing robes made from what looked like woven light. Their large eyes were silver and seemed to hold ancient wisdom. One of the aliens stepped forward, taller than the others and wearing a robe that sparkled with more complex patterns. The universal translator in Lee Dae-ho's earpiece crackled to life as the alien spoke in harmonious tones. "Unknown beings," the translator converted the musical sounds into words. "You have broken through the sacred barrier. This has never happened before in 10,000 years of recorded history. I am High Conductor Velron of the Crystalline Fleet. State your origin and purpose." Lee Dae-ho stepped forward and bowed slightly, remembering his diplomatic training. I am Captain Lee Daho of the Earth vessel Tega. We are explorers from the planet Earth. Our ship was damaged and we accidentally came through what you call the sacred barrier. We mean no harm." The aliens' musical voices rose in what sounded like surprise and confusion. Velran's silver eyes widened as he studied the humans more carefully. "Earth?" Velran's translated voice carried notes of disbelief. "This word is unknown to us. You claim to be from beyond the sacred barrier? This is impossible. No species has ever achieved such technology." Kim Sora stepped forward holding her tablet. "Sir, with respect, we're not sure what this sacred barrier is. We were simply traveling through space when our engine malfunctioned. Our engineer fixed it and we ended up here." She showed Velran her tablet, which was displaying readings about the local environment. The alien stared at the device with obvious amazement. "What manner of computation crystal is this?" Velran asked, his musical voice filled with wonder. "It processes information faster than our greatest temple computers." Park Jin-woo exchanged a glance with his captain. The tablet Kim Sora was using was standard Earth technology, nothing special by human standards. Every person on Earth owned devices with similar capabilities. "It's just a research tablet," Kim Sora explained. "I use it for scientific analysis." Velran gestured to several other aliens who approached cautiously. They began to examine the humans with devices that looked like crystal wands. The scanners moved slowly and made soft chiming sounds. "Fascinating," Velran said after receiving reports from his people. "You are indeed biological beings, but your technology signatures are unlike anything in our databases. You must come with us to Centralis, the capital world of the Galactic Empire." Lee Daho felt a chill at the words Galactic Empire, but he kept his expression calm. "We would be honored to meet your leaders. However, our ship needs repairs before we can travel anywhere." Velran's crystalline robe shimmered as he moved. "Your vessel will be transported safely. Our engineering guilds will examine it with great interest." Such primitive construction methods, yet it survived passage through the sacred barrier. Park Jin-woo's eye twitched slightly at the word primitive, but he remained silent. The journey to Centralis took 3 days aboard. Velran's flagship, a massive crystal ship called the Harmony of Ages. Lee Daho and his crew were given comfortable quarters and treated as honored guests. However, as they traveled, the humans began to notice strange things about their host's technology. The ship's computers were incredibly slow by human standards. Simple calculations that Kim Sora's tablet could perform in seconds took the alien system several minutes. The ship's navigation required a crew of dozens to plot courses that human autopilots handled automatically. "Captain," Park Jin-woo said quietly during their second day of travel, "I've been observing their engineering systems. Their power generation is terribly inefficient. This massive ship produces less energy than our little research vessel." Kim Sora nodded agreement. "I've been analyzing their materials and construction methods. Everything is grown rather than manufactured. It's beautiful, but not very practical. Their strongest hull materials are weaker than basic human steel alloys." Lee Daho listened to his crew's observations with growing confusion. The Galactic Empire seemed vast and ancient, but their technology appeared to be centuries behind Earth's capabilities. How had they built such a large civilization with such primitive tools? On the 3rd day, they arrived at Centralis. The capital world was breathtaking, a planet covered in crystalline cities that grew from the ground like magnificent gardens. Billions of beings lived in harmony across its surface, representing dozens of different species. The humans were brought before the Galactic Council of 12 species in a vast crystal amphitheater. The council members were impressive, ancient beings who had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years. There was Ethon the Drifter, a gaseous being who floated in a containment field and spoke through controlled wind currents. His species, the Ethians, had mastered atmospheric manipulation and weather control. Zephyr Queen Kithara represented the insectoid Zephyrites, whose hive-mind colonies could construct massive structures through coordinated effort. Her multifaceted eyes gleamed as she studied the humans. Crystal Lord Mordan of the Velteron sat on a throne of living crystal that grew and shifted constantly. His people were master builders who shaped matter through harmonic resonance. Each council member commanded fleets of thousands of ships and ruled over systems containing billions of citizens. They had eliminated war, disease, and hunger throughout their territories. By any measure, they had created an impressive civilization. Ambassador Yoon Tae-min had been hastily appointed to represent Earth during the emergency session. He arrived by quantum communication link, his holographic image appearing before the council with perfect clarity. "Greetings, honored council," Yoon Tae-min said diplomatically. "I speak for the people of Earth. We are grateful for your hospitality toward our lost crew." The council members spoke among themselves. In various alien languages before Ethan, the drifter addressed the humans, small beings from beyond the sacred barrier. His wind voice whispered through the chamber. "We have ruled this galaxy for 10,000 years. In all that time, no species has ever achieved the impossible feat you claim. How did you breach the dimensional wall that separates our realm from the outer darkness?" Park Jin-woo stepped forward nervously. "Honored sir, I reversed the polarity on our quantum flux generators when our drive core was overloading. It was just an emergency repair." The council chamber fell silent. Crystal Lord Mordan's throne stopped growing and shifting. Zephyr Queen Kithara's antennae twitched with agitation. "You performed dimensional manipulation as an emergency repair?" Ethan's voice carried notes of disbelief. "Our greatest scientists have spent millennia attempting to understand dimensional barriers. It is considered the most complex field of study in the galaxy." Kim So-ra pulled out her tablet and began accessing Earth's databases through the quantum link. "Sir, dimensional physics is fairly well understood by human science. We've been using controlled dimensional folding for faster-than-light travel for over 50 years. She showed the tablet to Crystal Lord Mordan, whose crystal body began to glow brighter as he studied the information. "These equations," he said slowly, "they describe dimensional manipulation methods that are thousands of years beyond our current understanding. How long has your species been studying advanced physics?" Ambassador Yoon Tae-min smiled politely through the communication link. "Human scientific development has accelerated rapidly over the past few centuries. We tend to build upon previous discoveries quite quickly." Commander Choi Hye-jin, who had arrived with the ambassador's support team, studied the council chamber carefully. She had commanded Earth's largest battleships and could assess military capabilities instinctively. What she saw concerned her. The Galactic Empire's technology was impressive in scale but primitive in execution. Their fastest ships were slower than human cargo vessels. Their most powerful weapons seemed to be energy beams that human shields could easily deflect. Their quantum computers processed data more slowly than Earth's personal devices. "Honored Council," Commander Choi Hye-jin said respectfully, "we appreciate your offer to guide our development as a new species. However, Earth has been exploring space independently for some time. We may be able to contribute to galactic civilization as equals rather than students." Zephyr Queen Kithara's compound eyes focused intently on the human commander. "You speak boldly for a species that required rescue after a simple engine malfunction." Engineer Nam Kisu, who had arrived with the support team, cleared his throat diplomatically. "Your Majesty, with respect, our engine didn't malfunction. We intentionally overloaded it to breach the dimensional barrier. What you call the sacred barrier, we consider a minor obstacle to navigation." The council members exchanged glances that crossed species barriers. In their ancient wisdom, they began to realize that these small beings from Earth might represent something unprecedented in galactic history, a young species that had somehow surpassed their technological. Professor Han Min Seo arrived on Centralis 3 weeks after the first contact with the Galactic Council. As Earth's leading cultural anthropologist, she had been chosen to study imperial society and help establish diplomatic relations. What she found amazed and puzzled her in equal measure. The empire was undeniably vast and ancient. 50,000 star systems filled with trillions of beings, all living in apparent harmony under the guidance of the 12 Species Council. War had been eliminated through careful social engineering. Disease was almost unknown thanks to advanced biotechnology. Scarcity was a thing of the past due to efficient resource distribution. "It's remarkable," Han Min Seo told Dr. Jang Woo-jin as they walked through one of Centralis's crystal gardens. "They've created a stable civilization that has lasted for 10,000 years. By comparison, human civilization is barely a few thousand years old." Dr. Jang Woo-jin, the expedition's medical officer, nodded thoughtfully. "Their achievements are impressive, but I'm concerned about their medical technology. They've invited me to observe their healing techniques, and frankly, I'm not sure how to politely tell them that their methods are centuries behind ours." The two humans were accompanied by guide harmonist Velkana, a young Velteran who had been assigned to help them understand Imperial culture. Her crystalline body chimed softly as she moved, creating pleasant musical tones. "Tell me about your healing methods," Han Min Seo asked politely. Velkana's eyes glowed with pride. "We have perfected the art of cellular regeneration through harmonic resonance. Our medical harmonists can heal most injuries by singing the correct frequencies to encourage tissue growth. For more serious conditions, we use nanotechnology to repair damage at the molecular level." Dr. Zhang Wujin tried to hide his surprise. Nanotechnology for medical treatment had been abandoned by human medicine 50 years ago in favor of more advanced cellular regeneration techniques and consciousness transfer systems. "That sounds very effective," he said diplomatically. "How long does it typically take to heal a broken bone?" "With proper harmonic treatment, a simple fracture can be healed in only 3 to 4 days," Velkana replied proudly. Dr. Zhang Wujin nodded politely while mentally noting that human medical technology could heal the same injury in less than an hour. He decided not to mention this fact. Meanwhile, pilot Oyeonji was having her own cultural difficulties. The Imperial Flight Academy had invited her to demonstrate human piloting techniques, expecting to share advanced navigation methods with their young species. Flight Commander Zorthak, a tall insectoid zephyrite, led Oyeonji to the Academy's training facilities. "We are eager to see how your species approaches atmospheric flight," he clicked through his translator. "Our pilots train for decades to master the complex art of three-dimensional navigation." Oyeonji looked at the training simulators with confusion. They were incredibly sophisticated devices that perfectly replicated the experience of flying various Imperial craft. However, the flight scenarios they presented were surprisingly simple by human standards. "These are very impressive simulators," she said politely. "May I try one of your advanced training programs?" Zorthak's antennae twitched with approval. "Certainly. We will start you with our intermediate-level atmospheric navigation course." Oyeonji climbed into the simulator and found herself piloting a virtual Imperial shuttle through a series of floating crystal cities. The course required precise navigation between delicate structures while maintaining perfect speed and attitude control. She completed the course in record time, performing maneuvers that the simulator's instructors had never seen before. Her human training in three-dimensional combat flight made the peaceful navigation exercises seem almost childishly simple. "Extraordinary," Zorthak clicked excitedly. "You have natural piloting abilities that exceed our most experienced flight commanders. Your species must have an innate talent for spatial reasoning." Oyeonji smiled modestly, not mentioning that she had been considered only an average pilot by human military standards. "Thank you, Flight Commander. Your equipment is very well designed." The real cultural shock came when the Empire's greatest philosophers and scientists arrived to share their wisdom with the visiting humans. High Scholar Mordain, an ancient Ethian who had studied the nature of existence for over 1,000 years, requested a formal philosophical debate with Professor Han Min Seo. The debate was held in the great amphitheater of thought, attended by hundreds of imperial intellectuals eager to see their greatest philosopher educate the primitive human about the deeper mysteries of existence. "Young seeker from Earth," High Scholar Mordain's wind voice whispered through the chamber. "In my 1,000 years of study, I have reached profound conclusions about the nature of reality. Tell me, what does your brief civilization understand about the relationship between consciousness and the physical universe?" Han Min Seo considered the question carefully. She had studied human philosophy extensively and was familiar with thousands of years of human thought on these subjects. "Honored scholar," she replied respectfully, "human philosophers have explored many perspectives on consciousness. Some believe it emerges from complex physical processes, while others argue it is fundamental to reality itself. We have theories about quantum consciousness, multiple dimensions of awareness, and the possibility that consciousness might exist independently of physical form." She went on to describe concepts like quantum superposition of thought states, dimensional consciousness theory, and multi-layered reality models that human philosophers had developed over the past few centuries. High Scholar Mordain's gaseous form swirled more rapidly as he struggled to process what he was hearing. The concepts Han Min Seo described casually were beyond anything the Empire's philosophers had considered in their 1,000 years of study. "These ideas," he whispered finally, "they suggest levels of understanding that we have not even begun to explore. How long has your species been developing such complex philosophical frameworks? Hanmin Seo realized she had inadvertently overwhelmed the ancient scholar. We build on the work of previous thinkers quite rapidly, she said gently. Human philosophy tends to accelerate as we discover new scientific principles. The audience of imperial intellectuals sat in stunned silence. Their greatest philosopher had been reduced to confused wonderment by what the human considered basic philosophical concepts. Dr. Lim Yoon-young, a quantum physicist who had arrived with the cultural exchange team, was having similar experiences with imperial scientists. They had invited her to examine their most advanced theoretical research, expecting to share cutting-edge discoveries with their new allies. Our quantum resonance theories represent the pinnacle of imperial scientific achievement, explained Chief Researcher Kyle Moth, a crystalline being whose body contained billions of computing crystals. We have spent centuries developing mathematical models that describe the behavior of subatomic particles. Dr. Lim Yoon-young studied their research with genuine interest. The imperial scientists had indeed made impressive discoveries, but their understanding of quantum mechanics was roughly equivalent to human knowledge from a century ago. Your work is very thorough, she said diplomatically. Have you explored quantum entanglement across dimensional boundaries? Keelmuth's crystalline body flickered with confusion. Dimensional boundaries? This concept is unknown to us. Quantum effects are limited to three-dimensional space. Dr. Lim Yoon-young realized that the Empire's scientists had never discovered multidimensional quantum theory, which humans had been using for decades to develop faster-than-light communication and advanced computing systems. It's a fairly recent development in human science, she said carefully, not wanting to embarrass her hosts. Perhaps we could collaborate on some research projects. Meanwhile, Captain An Dong-hyuk of Earth's Special Forces was observing Imperial military capabilities with growing concern. He had been invited to review their defensive systems and strategic doctrines as part of the cultural exchange. General Thexelar, a massive reptilian being from the warrior caste of the draconian species, proudly showed the human captain their most advanced military technology. Behold the stellar defense grid, General Thexelar rumbled through his translator. 60,000 automated defense platforms protect our core systems. Each platform is equipped with quantum disruptor cannons capable of destroying entire fleets. Captain An Dong-hyuk studied the technical specifications with professional interest. The defense grid was indeed massive and would be impressive against threats using Imperial-level technology. However, by human standards, the platforms were slow, predictable and vulnerable to basic electronic warfare techniques. Very impressive, he said politely. How do the platforms coordinate their targeting systems? Through crystalline communication networks that operate at light speed, General Thexelar replied proudly. No enemy can react faster than light itself. Captain An Dong-hyuk nodded, not mentioning that human military communication systems used quantum entanglement for instantaneous coordination across any distance. The Imperial defense grid would be virtually helpless against human electronic warfare capabilities. As the cultural exchange continued, a strange pattern emerged. Admiral Song Kyung-ho stood on the bridge of the Earth Defense Force flagship Seoul's Pride as it dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Centralis system. Around him, 11 other human vessels materialized from the dimensional fold, their sleek hulls reflecting the light of the system's twin stars. Admiral, reported Navigation Officer Lee Soo-jin, we've successfully tracked the Taeguk's dimensional signature. The ship is on the planet's surface, apparently intact. Song Kyung-ho nodded grimly. When Earth had lost contact with Captain Lee Dae-ho's research vessel, a rescue fleet had been immediately dispatched. The Admiral had expected to find wreckage or perhaps survivors stranded on some remote world. He had not expected to find his people in the middle of a galactic civilization. Sir, Communications Officer Park Jae-won called out urgently. We're being scanned by multiple sources. I'm detecting thousands of artificial objects throughout this system. This isn't an empty star system. It's heavily populated. Before Song Kyung-ho could respond, space around the human fleet began to shimmer with crystalline light. Massive Imperial warships began dropping out of hyperspace, surrounding the human vessels with overwhelming numbers. Admiral Thexvola of the Imperial Stellar Navy materialized on the communication screen, his reptilian features showing obvious concern. Unknown vessels, you have entered sovereign Imperial space without authorization. Identify yourselves immediately or face the consequences. Song Kyung-ho stepped forward, his uniform bearing the insignia of Earth's highest military command. I am Admiral Song Kyung-ho of the Earth Defense Force. We are here to recover our people and our vessel. We have no hostile intentions. On the planet's surface, Captain Lee Dae-ho received an emergency communication from Ambassador Yoon Tae-min. Captain, we have a situation developing in orbit. Earth's rescue fleet has arrived, but they're surrounded by Imperial warships. The situation could escalate quickly. Lee Dae-ho immediately contacted Dr. Lim Yoon-young, who was working with Imperial scientists in their quantum research facility. Doctor, I need you to analyze the Imperial fleet's capabilities immediately. Can our ships defend themselves if necessary? Dr. Lim Yoon-young accessed the human fleet's sensor data through her quantum communication link. Her analysis was swift and comprehensive. Captain, this is not even a contest. Our ships outclass theirs in every category: speed, maneuverability, defensive systems, and offensive capabilities. But there are thousands of Imperial vessels. Even with our technological advantages, we could face problems from sheer numbers. In orbit, the standoff continued as more Imperial ships arrived. The human fleet of 12 vessels was now surrounded by over 3,000 Imperial warships, representing the largest military force the Empire had assembled in centuries. Admiral Thex Vola studied the human ships with growing confusion. His fleet's sensors were having difficulty penetrating their hull materials, and the energy signatures from their engines were unlike anything in Imperial databases. Admiral Song Kyung-ho, Thex Vola transmitted, your vessels appear to be heavily shielded. Are you prepared for combat operations? Song Kyung-ho considered his response carefully. He could see the massive Imperial fleet surrounding his ships, but his tactical officers were reporting that the alien vessels posed minimal threat to human technology. Admiral Thex Vola, he replied diplomatically, our ships are operating under standard defensive protocols. We are not seeking conflict, but we are prepared to defend ourselves if necessary. Commander Choi Hee-jin, monitoring the situation from the planet's surface, opened a priority channel to the Soul's Pride. Admiral, I strongly recommend avoiding any combat demonstration. These people are trying to understand our capabilities, and a show of force might have diplomatic consequences. Dr. Lim Yoon-young had reached the same conclusion. Admiral, their technology is centuries behind ours. Any combat engagement would be so one-sided that it might destabilize their entire civilization. But Admiral Song Kyung-ho was facing a dilemma. The Imperial fleet was powering up weapon systems and moving into attack formations. His duty was to protect his people and complete the rescue mission, but he also understood the broader implications of humanity's first contact with a galactic civilization. On Centralis, the Galactic Council was meeting an emergency session. The appearance of additional human vessels had shaken their fundamental assumptions about Earth's capabilities. 12 ships, Crystal Lord Mordan observed, his throne pulsing with agitated light. Only 12 ships, yet they entered our most heavily defended system without difficulty. Ethon the Drifter's gaseous form swirled rapidly. Our sensor readings indicate that their vessels passed through our outer defense perimeters without triggering any alarms. Their stealth capabilities exceed our detection systems. Zephyr Queen Kithara's compound eyes reflected the chamber's crystalline light. More concerning is their apparent indifference to our naval superiority. 3,000 Imperial warships surround them, yet they show no signs of surrender or retreat. The Council was struggling to process what they were witnessing. In 10,000 years of Imperial history, no force had ever challenged their military dominance so casually. Back in orbit, Admiral Song Kyung-ho made his decision. All ships maintain defensive postures only. Do not power weapons systems or active targeting arrays. We're going to demonstrate our capabilities through defense, not offense. The Imperial fleet, interpreting the human ship's peaceful behavior as a sign of submission, began to close in for capture operations. Admiral. Thex Vola ordered his vessels to deploy containment fields and tractor beams. What happened next would become legendary throughout the Empire. The human ships simply ignored the Imperial containment fields, passing through them as if they didn't exist. The tractor beams, designed to hold the largest Imperial vessels, had no effect on the human ship's exotic hull materials. Impossible. Admiral Thexavola muttered as he watched the human fleet casually navigate through his most powerful restraint systems. Song Kyung-ho ordered a controlled demonstration. Navigation. Bring us within 1 kilometer of their flagship. Engineering. Activate our standard navigation shields. The Soul's Pride moved smoothly through the Imperial fleet, its defensive shields deflecting weapons fire that could have destroyed entire Imperial squadrons. The human ship's casual immunity to the Empire's most powerful weapons sent shockwaves through the alien fleet. Captain An Dong-hyuk, watching from the planet's surface, shook his head in amazement. Admiral Song Kyung-ho isn't even trying to show off. That's just standard defensive maneuvering. Dr. Lim Yoon-young was analyzing the engagement through her instruments. The Imperial weapons are actually quite impressive for their technological level. Their quantum disruptors could probably damage our ships if they could penetrate our shields, but our defensive systems are designed to handle much more sophisticated attacks. On the Imperial flagship, Admiral Thexavola was receiving reports that defied belief. His most powerful weapons were having no effect on the human vessels. Their shields appeared to be operating on principles that Imperial science couldn't understand. "Sir," his weapons officer reported with obvious confusion, "our quantum disruptors are being completely absorbed by their defensive fields. It's as if their shields exist in a different dimensional space." Thexavola realized that he was facing something unprecedented in Imperial military history. The humans weren't just technologically superior. They were operating with science that made Imperial capabilities seem primitive. Song Kyung-ho opened a communication channel to the Imperial fleet. "Admiral Thexavola, we have no desire for conflict. Our demonstration was intended to show that we cannot be captured or restrained by force. We request permission to recover our people and depart peacefully." The Imperial Admiral stared at the human ships that had just rendered his entire fleet ineffective without firing a single shot. "Admiral Song Kyung-ho, your capabilities are beyond our current understanding. You have my permission to retrieve your personnel." On Centralis, the Galactic Council was receiving real-time reports of the orbital engagement. The implications were staggering. "They neutralized our entire stellar defense fleet without using weapons," Crystal Lord Morden said slowly. "Their defensive capabilities alone exceed our offensive capabilities." Professor Han Minseo, who had been observing the council session, realized that this moment would change everything. The Empire's 10,000-year dominance of the galaxy had just ended in a single, bloodless demonstration. Ethan the Drifter addressed the human professor directly. "Scholar Han Minseo, we must ask directly. What is Earth's true military capacity? How many ships like these do you possess?" Han Minseo considered her response carefully. The rescue fleet represented less than 1% of Earth's actual military strength. But revealing this information might cause panic throughout the Empire. "Honored Ethan," she said diplomatically, "Earth maintains a modest defense fleet suitable for protecting our interests. These ships represent a small portion of our capabilities, dispatched specifically for rescue operations." The council members exchanged glances across species barriers. A small portion of human capabilities had just demonstrated the ability to neutralize the Empire's most powerful military force. The Great Hall of the Galactic Council was bigger than most cities on Earth. Thousands of beings from different worlds sat in circles that went up and up like a giant stadium. The air hummed with translator devices working overtime to help everyone understand each other. Ambassador Taman slammed his scaled fist on the metal table in front of him. His green skin turned darker when he was angry, and right now he looked almost black. The reports from the outer worlds were getting worse every day. "The Vorthans took 3 more star systems this week," Taman said, his voice echoing through the hall. "They are not stopping. They will not stop until every living being in the galaxy is dead or turned into one of their slave drones." Around the hall, representatives from hundreds of worlds nodded in agreement. Some had tentacles instead of arms. Others looked like walking crystals or clouds of gas held together by energy fields. But they all showed fear in their own ways. Council leader Yuna stood up slowly. She was made of living crystal that changed colors when she thought. Right now she glowed a calm blue that meant she was thinking hard about numbers and facts. "The math is clear," Yuna said. Her voice came from speakers because crystal beings could not make sounds the way others did. "No single species has ever beaten a full Vorthon attack. We have run the numbers 1,000 times. The best choice is to move everyone away from the danger areas." "Run away?" Taman's voice got louder. "That is your great plan? We have the ships of 1,000 worlds. We have weapons that can crack planets in half. And you want to run? Yuna's crystal body flashed yellow for a moment. Yellow meant she was getting annoyed. We are not running. We are being smart. The Vorthons have been fighting wars since before most of our species learned to walk upright. Their ships grow instead of being built. They heal damage in minutes. They think as one mind across millions of bodies. Fighting them head-on is suicide. In the back of the Great Hall, a small group sat quietly. They looked almost exactly like each other. 2 arms, 2 legs, 1 head, soft skin, and different shades of brown and pink. They were humans, the newest members of the Galactic Council. Commander Jiwan sat with her back straight, watching everything with dark eyes that missed nothing. Next to her sat Dr. So-young, the smartest human scientist, and General Ji-hoon, who led all of Earth's armies. They had been listening to this argument for 3 hours. The humans had only been part of the galactic community for 2 years. Their planet Earth was far away from the center of things, in what most aliens called the empty part of space. When the first alien ship found Earth, most aliens thought humans were just another primitive species that might become useful in a few thousand years. Ambassador Do-hyun from the Kalari Federation raised one of his 4 arms. His people looked like tall, thin humans with extra arms and silver skin. "What about asking the humans to help?" he said. "They have been very eager to prove themselves." The hall got quiet for a moment. Then a sound started that humans had never heard before but somehow knew meant laughter. It was like wind chimes mixed with whale songs mixed with static from old radios. Yuna's crystal body flashed bright yellow and then blue again. "The humans have fighting spirit, yes, but they barely have 50 ships that can travel between stars. Their weapons are simple chemical explosives and metal bullets. They have been in space for less time than most of us take to grow from children to adults." More laughter sounds filled the hall. A being that looked like a floating jellyfish with too many eyes spoke up. "Did you see their war movies? They think aliens always lose to humans with simple weapons and clever tricks. It is cute." Commander Jiwan felt her face get hot. She had heard this kind of talk before. When humans first met aliens, everyone was amazed that such a young species had figured out faster than light travel so quickly. But amazement had turned into gentle mockery when they saw how simple human technology really was. Human ships were tiny compared to alien vessels. Human weapons seemed like toys next to alien planet crackers. Human computers were barely smart enough to run a bathtub compared to alien thinking machines that could predict the future. "The Vorthons have ships the size of cities," said another alien. "This one shaped like a tree with too many branches. Each one carries 1,000,000 warrior drones. Their weapons can turn the air itself into acid. What exactly would the humans do against that?" Yuna turned her crystal attention to the human section. "Commander Jiwan, would you like to say something?" "Though I am afraid the Council has already decided to begin evacuation procedures for the threatened sectors." Jiwan stood up slowly. The hall got quiet as thousands of alien eyes, tentacles, sensors, and other seeing parts focused on her. She was not very tall even for a human. Her black hair was tied back in a simple way. She wore a blue uniform that looked plain next to the fancy clothes and natural decorations of the aliens around her. "Yes, I would like to say something," Jiwan said. Her voice was calm but carried clearly through the hall's sound system. "You are all cowards." The silence that followed was so complete that humans could hear their own heartbeats. Several aliens made choking or gasping sounds. In the 2,000-year history of the Galactic Council, no one had ever used that word in the Great Hall. "I am sorry," Yuna said, her crystal body flashing confused purple. "Could you repeat that?" "The translators must have made an error." "No error," Jiwan said. "I called you cowards. All of you." She looked around the hall, meeting as many alien gazes as she could. "You have the combined power of 1,000 worlds. You have technology that can reshape reality itself. You have weapons that can destroy suns and computers that can think faster than gods. And the first time something really dangerous shows up, you want to run away and hide." Taemin's scales had gone from dark green to bright red. "How dare you—" "No," Jiwan cut him off. "How dare you? How dare all of you? Do you know what we do on Earth when something threatens our people? We fight. We don't care if the enemy is bigger or stronger or smarter. We fight anyway," Dr. So-young whispered urgently in Korean. "Jiwan, you are making them angry." "This will not help our case," Jiwan ignored her. "You want to know about human war movies?" "Yes, in our stories the aliens usually lose. Do you know why? Because in human stories the good guys never give up. They find a way to win even when winning seems impossible. That is what humans do. That is what you are supposed to do." "This is outrageous," said the jellyfish being. "Humans have never faced a real threat. Your species has only fought itself. You have no idea what real war means." "We know what losing means," Jiwan shot back, "and we refuse to accept it." She looked directly at Yuna. "On Earth, we have an old saying, the only thing necessary for evil to triumph is for good people to do nothing. You are all good people. But right now, you are choosing to do nothing." General Jihoon stood up next to Jiwan. He was older, with gray hair and scars on his hands from old battles. "Humanity formally requests permission to engage the Vorthan Empire," he said in a voice like iron. The laughter that followed was not the gentle, musical sound from before. This was sharper, more like the sound of breaking glass mixed with static. It went on for a long time. "You want to fight the Vorthans?" Yuna said when the noise died down. 50 human ships against millions of biovessels. "This is not bravery. This is suicide." "Maybe," Jiwan said. She picked up her data pad and started walking toward the exit. "But if we die fighting. If you run away, you will live with knowing you never even tried." She stopped at the great doors and turned back. "When the Vorthans come for your core worlds, and they will, remember this moment. Remember that someone offered to stand with you and you laughed." As the humans left the hall, the aliens sat in uncomfortable silence. Finally, Do-hyun spoke up. "Are we really going to let them go alone?" "They will not go," Yuna said. But her crystal body had turned gray, which meant uncertainty. "When they see the real Vorthan fleet, they will understand why we choose evacuation." But as the human delegation walked through the corridors of the station, Commander Jiwan was already making plans. Earth's fleet was small, but it was fast. More importantly, it was crewed by humans who had grown up hearing stories about impossible victories and heroes who never gave up. Behind them, the Galactic Council continued debating evacuation routes and refugee camps. They had mathematics and logic and thousands of years of military history on their side. What they did not have was the one thing humans had never learned to live without: hope. 3 days later, when the human fleet left Earth space heading for the war zone, many aliens thought they were watching a funeral procession. They had no idea they were actually watching the beginning of a revolution that would change the galaxy forever. The cosmos was about to be shocked. It just did not know it yet.